You're welcome along. It's episode 3 of the Irish Edge. We're still, the weather is actually still pretty miserable in Dublin, but we're still just coming down from the highs of the Dublin Race Festival run on the Sunday and the Monday, and we're going to look at Naas, Navan and Newbury this weekend, as well as reflect on the Dublin Racing Festival and kind of one eye on Cheltenham. Even talking to Willie Mullins and myself yesterday, and you know, this is what you love about Cheltenham, when horses that are being written off are not being written off at all by the trainer himself. And all of these Cheltenham preview nights, as much as they can be a bit of an ordeal, are going to be a lot of crack between now and the middle of March. Just to mention, the sponsor, Boyles, is doing a new customer exclusive offer. Bet €10 and get €60 in free bets, and a €10 casino bonus, or bet €10 and get €70 in free bets. Terms and conditions apply, and make sure to gamble responsibly. Republic of Ireland and Northern Irish customers only. And it's Johnny Ward again with Tommy Lyons, reflecting initially on the Dublin Racing Festival. Kind of quite selfishly, I was hoping that Monday's Punchtown card would be moved, because I was doing a live show on Sunday night which entailed a few pints, so I was in Punchtown yesterday. But it's been a hell of a week, Tommy, because we had Fairy House on Tuesday, Thurles today as we record this Thursday. It's just kind of run into the weekend, and some of our selections did well, it has to be said. What was your take of the whole 2 days?
Look, you're gonna have to maybe take it with a little pinch of salt, some of the results, or maybe forgive a little bit more than you'd like to forgive if you're going to Cheltenham, just because the ground was so testing. But they did a great job to get the 2 days to go ahead so well, and get performances like they did. I mean, I was there Monday. I didn't make it up Sunday. Anybody I spoke to on Monday said there was a huge crowd on Sunday. It wasn't huge on Monday, but it was big, considering what, people would have had 2 days planned, maybe had hotels booked and couldn't stay over for the Monday. No, a lot of people did.
I spoke to 2 bookies on track yesterday, and it was like a complete anomaly, because we were in the Punchtown betting ring with like 3 people there, literally. And the 2 bookies were saying serious wedge, like there was serious money. It was like the old days, like it was as good a festival as they can remember. I was like, this is great. This is like the old, the old betting ring here. Yeah,
I spoke to a good few bookies, and over on Monday to talking again. I was kind of early in the day. I didn't have the reflections on Monday, but on Sunday they were happy with trade anyway. Whatever the results they got out of it, I'm sure they got a few
good results.
Yeah, they got good results on Sunday. But you also have to factor in, as a bookmaker, you can get it wrong too. I would like to hear the odd time when a bookmaker, we always say they all have a poor mouth, but I do like to hear at times when they say that, you know what, I had a bad day yesterday because I took on something.
That's not bookmaking though. This is the problem. It's not bookmaking is making a book, what you're talking about is that
is gambling.
In my head, if I became a bookmaker, that's the type of bookie I'd be, where I'd be all over a horse off a cliff to take it on.
Yeah, but okay, so over the
10 links second, the leader falls at the last, right? And you got it right, but
but what you've said there a few minutes ago, they were saying it was like the old days and all that, and that is brilliant, right? So then you can go back to making a book because there's enough money there. But over the last number of years, when there weren't, or even if you were in Punchestown yesterday, as you talked about, I mean, you got to try, if you're going to get people in, you've got to try get them in, lure them in with something. So you've got to, what I like about it, I'm thinking from a punter point of view, is that I took a chance on that and it cost me. You push the price out a little bit to be best price on it, and that'll, if they don't fancy it, maybe I do, I'll step in and take the price.
So have an opinion.
But you have to have, like, it's okay if there's loads of money there. You can make a book because you have a chance of making good money anyway. But if things are quiet, as they have been for years, let's be honest about it at times. The only things, what I did find, actually, segue in a little bit, over the last year, and I was at a lot of the festivals, they stood up really well last year. Maybe like going racing midweek can be soul destroying, and it's one of the things I do not miss is having to go as often as they did. That can be soul destroying, but in those meetings you've got to take a stance and say, I don't like this, or I'm against this, or whatever. And that, you say, that's gambling, not bookmaking.
Yeah, to an extent, but I will say going racing now, there actually is good value, and there was a lot of sterling about. There was like actual cash. Like, some people now, you go into these mad coffee shops and they're like, we don't have cash transactions because we're trying to save on the planet or whatever, because we don't have to print money. People should be able to do stuff with their money without like the government knowing and without everyone else knowing and technology knowing. And cash was king. And then you had the dogs thrown in on Saturday night for the people who were over on the Saturday. And I was just like, this is great. Like, I mean, we shouldn't be afraid of this. We shouldn't be afraid of having a bet.
That's like Nirvana for you and me.
Yeah. Oh man! So I'm thinking of what will I do with my stag, right? There are tips on each of two at the moment. Champions Weekend or the Dublin Racing Festival with the dogs thrown in, and you come to Dublin for the 2 nights. And Tommy, you'll be giving tips left, right, and centre. What did you take out of the week briefly? Like, or the two days? What did you really take out of it? For me, briefly, Majborough and Marine Nationale. It'll be a different clash at Cheltenham on different ground. And Narciso Haas, I've actually laid him to a mate of mine because I just took the bet. That's not good. Fact to file, what were they thinking? And Mark Walsh, what were they thinking? Now, in fairness with Mark Walsh, okay, Mark Walsh hasn't gone away, you know. Harry Cobham's going to be on the scene, but Mark Walsh will still be there. Fact to file, I don't know. I just don't get it. Why wasn't he in the Gold Cup?
He will be, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will be. And why wasn't he? I don't know. Because maybe they thought that he was a penalty kick for the Ryanair. I now think Gaelic Warrior, obviously the ground will be a bit quicker. I now think Gaelic Warrior is an absolute penalty kick. Did you see that run the other day? The way he jumped, but the way he pulled, and still to finish second. Now,
left-handed.
Well, I did say I thought over the trip and on the ground, Leopardstown wouldn't be as big an issue. He jumped absolutely unbelievably. Patrick had a bit of a tough weekend with the likes of himself and Jimmy Desai, kind of horses that pulled really hard. And Patrick's as strong as jockey as there is in the weigh room. If he's not going to be able to keep a hold of them, they're just not going to be able to be restrained. I think you have to drop in trip with Gaelic Warrior. I know people have talked him up as a Gold Cup horse. Jeez, I'd struggle. I think there might be an overreaction maybe. Like we talked.
Fact to file.
Yes, I think I love the horse. He's done me some favours over the years. He was utterly brilliant last year at Cheltenham. I was talking to a few people before the race on Monday, and they said the bots are backing Fact to File. And I looked him up in the machine at the time. Now, if you were going to be a trader, it was the thing to do. I didn't do it now or anything, but said they reckoned he was a 5-2 chance. Now, you and I spoke last week, and I think, having been up there, and I said to a couple of people, there's going to be money for a Fact to File. No, can't fancy him. No, can't fancy him. We thought, you have to prove you stay 3 mile properly on heavy ground. You weren't good enough last year. You're disappointing in the King George.
I was very against Galvin Deschamps. It was just a question of...
Well,
and in hindsight, Fact to File was the bet.
Well...
In hindsight. It was, but even Patrick Mullen sort of thought he'd do him for stamina. And he works in the yard, so it's like I wasn't sure about him getting that trip on that ground in a truly run race.
Yeah, look at the bots can get it wrong too. Let's be honest about it. It's not straightforward or whatever. But they just thought the price was way wrong on him. You and I were willing to oppose a horse that we really like and we really think has tremendous ability. I think I don't mind not backing him, and I don't mind him winning in the sense that I back Gaelic Warrior each way.
Fair enough.
I couldn't believe that he finished second, basically the way he was as keen as he was. He probably jumped the first 2 well and probably made him even more keen because he jumped it so well. He was very forward after, and he was just impossible to settle. I thought he ran a hell of a race, but I think the winner had stuff to prove, and I don't mind him winning because I like the fact that he's developed now into what is probably a genuine, it's another couple of furlongs in Cheltenham, but it's a genuine Gold Cup contender. He's probably favoured now, is he, around about the 5-2 mark?
Well, the McManus Gold Cup team now is really incredible because Spallan's Tower is a shorter price, and I know the way you're thinking, and obviously Fact to File is a shorter price than both. So all three, in my view, absolutely have a chance in the Gold Cup, and this Gold Cup is shaping up to be spectacularly open. Yeah,
well, the reigning champ. I mean, how could you even consider backing him now?
It's very hard to know. I'm willing to think in 6 weeks that Gavin might be able to say, okay, I have turned him around here, but I spoke to Keith Donoghue yesterday. I was like, what were your reflections on the Dublin Race Festival? He more or less said, I'm glad it's over. And it was a sad thing actually to see that Gold Cup, because people can talk about, and I've spoken about the way he's been campaigned, but there was nothing untoward about this. It was just sad to see a horse labour like that, and this wasn't a good prep for a Gold Cup in any man or woman's language, and never will be.
And you can't go in there, no matter what you hear in the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks, wherever it is,
with any confidence.
You can't go back in them, I don't think. I mean, can you?
It depends on the price, but I'd also wonder about the Gold Cup he won last year versus the Gold Cup this year, where there are all these horses that he didn't take on.
Look, Gallopin Deschamps, we were both against him. He's going to be. He's a year older. He doesn't seem to be the same horse. Is he as good at Cheltenham as he is around Leopardstown? If that's the case, then Gallopin Deschamps is going to go backwards a little bit more. Now, I said last week, I did think that he'd be more, and I think Willie kind of spoke about it after, said something similar, and maybe that's a little bit of hope on his part because the horse obviously disappointed finishing third the other day, but he he's going to take a step forward for Cheltenham, but it's still not going to be enough, is it? And I just don't know how good that Gold Cup was last year either.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so your visual impression of what the winner did was incredible, but like Galton Deschamps to me is now just to know, Boyle Sports is actually non-run no bet on the Gold Cup if you want to have a look at those races. And as of now, fact to file edges Django Bay and the Jukebox Man. First, second and third. So we'll have to move on, Tommy, because we actually could literally stay here all day talking about Cheltenham and Drum Race Festival. And I have to say my buzz is back for Cheltenham. I've felt the last few years has been kind of, this isn't what Cheltenham should be like, and this year it's pretty much just hashtag back, and it is money back second as a free bet on select races this weekend with Boyle Sports. 18 plus, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, UK, online only. Terms, conditions apply, and make sure to gamble responsibly. We're going to start actually in Newbury this weekend, and we're going to start with the Game Spirit Chase 245. And we did, I did kind of say I was going to mention this before the show, just moving away from the cold currency of betting. Like Lulamba here, Mastermind had won this race in as a 5-year-old. He's the last two 5-year-olds I think have won this race ever, or certainly in the Wikipedia records I've seen. Probably don't run that very often, but it's one of these things now. If Lulamba happens to, if something goes wrong here, there will be people who will say, oh, he shouldn't be running him against senior chasers. But as a broader point here, like, and the pandemic definitely made us rethink what we were doing in a lot of things, like working from home became normal and all that. But is there not a case in racing that people just do things because it's been done forever? Like if you never had any idea of how to train a horse or a race program, and you were shown tomorrow, right, here's the schedule of tiers for a horse, and you had a 4-year-old, would you go down point to point bumper hurdle chase? So point to point bumper hurdle chase, so 3 seasons before the horse, who's basically a chaser, goes chasing. Why would you bother with bumpers? Why would you even bother with hurdles? You can go back hurdling maybe as a novice if you think it's an add-on to his chasing career. But a lot of this is like, it's just done because it's been done forever. Lulamba here is a rare one. He's a novice going into this race as a 5-year-old. He is odds on as well, so there's a lot to talk about.
A lot of points there you make, Johnny. I agree with. I do think there are a lot of wasted years. Bumper programs. Some trainers love them. I'm sure owners like them if they're the selling type of owner. But you know, there's nothing. I said it last week. There's nothing I hate more than a horse staying in bumpers for more than one season. That it's obviously a sign of there's some
problem
sort
there.
Yeah, maybe a jumping problem or some sort of issue, hold up or whatever. And the season, then your novice season impacted if you start jumping too late and all this. So there's different factors. I don't mind novices staying in novice company if the program is there and it's good enough and it provides competitive racing among novices. But I do see the value in Lulamba running here, because I'm not, and it's brave, I think, even though it's odds on. You might say it's not brave. He's just a better horse than these. He might be. But you're taking on seasoned horses who have
proper horses, grade 2 horses, like.
And I don't know if I was listening to a few people talking about Lulamba and how he's a great jumper. I'm not certain. I haven't seen a natural
8 out of 10 kind of 7, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I haven't seen he's a 9.5 or any of this sort of stuff. Whatever. If we're going to get too technical, that sort of stuff, I'm more. You rate what you see with your eye. I just haven't been fully convinced. But this is the type of thing that could mature him quite a bit. At senior pace, let's just say, it's like a phrase I seem to use a lot when I'm talking about greyhounds. It's like when you're talking about going into a derby. This is senior hurling. This mightn't be the champion chase or whatever, but this is a serious race. And even if you have horses that might say fall a little bit below grade 1 and might be genuine grade 2 horses, this is a step up for him.
Well, when I was getting into racing, Beaver Salmon was running as a novice in the Gold Cup, and it backfired. Like, there's no doubt.
And there are plenty of other examples of the same thing, unfortunately.
But in this race, cutting to the chase here again, to borrow the pun, he does win bar fall, does he not? Or bar, like, because on ability, he is quite simply definitely the best horse in this race, even though ratings would suggest he's a rating of a novice.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, he's also going to be better over further. I think if he's and
this is 2 miles half a furlong on soft ground probably.
Yeah, like I think he's going to be better over further. I don't think he's going to be a champion chase horse next year now or anything like that. I think he could be more a Ryanair chaser, maybe further. I don't know how far he'll stay, but I just think looking at him, I think I'm not fully convinced that about his jumping yet. But I think this this proper pace in the hull might actually improve him, and hopefully it will. But I don't know if
8 to 11 with Boyles. Are you opposing him? Are you with him or against him?
No, I think. Look, I think he'd probably win, but I don't want to back him. I mean, you've got good horses in it. Master Chewy won last year, albeit he was entered in the Denman Chase on the same card, and probably at this stage of his career, even though he was disappointing in the King George, he probably does want further than 2 miles at this stage, even though he won it last year. Liberty Hunter finished second last year. Interesting to see a little bit of money for him during the week. Sometimes that's down to the fact that they think that maybe there might be non-runners and taking a bit of an advantage that he'll run well. I think Liberty Hunter will run well. Saint Segal has come up through the kind of, he finished 10th in the Fred Winter, won by Brazil, and that's where he's kind of come from. You know what I mean? It's through the handicap route. You'd hope that a horse of Lulamba's stature or ability, a proper graded horse over hurdles, would be good enough to beat him. I just think there's enough. It's enough of a test, a big test. It's a brave decision. Great to see it. You like it. I like the decision. But I'd prefer to be jumping on him after 2 fences, even if he's sitting in 4th place. But I'm happy with the way he jumped the first 2 and the way he settled. I just think there's enough in it to say that he's not a stone cold certainty.
Yeah, so there we go. It's going to be, for me anyway, a question of maybe just waiting a bit longer as well for the market to mature, because there will be reason to take on Lulamba on the day, and it's just fascinating for me that he's taken on the senior horses, and it is a strong 2 mile division this year as well at the moment for the novices. The Denman Chase at 2:10, Denman evoking memories of Masterminded and that kind of era that I was recalling there. I met a geezer at the races yesterday, and he'd a docket, and he was like, "Oh, look, I got odds against Haiti Killer because he got words." And this is the antepost markets, and I defend the bookmakers, and it's hard to price up an antepost market to any degree because insider information just throws you straight away. Haiti Killer, who was supposed to go to Leopardstown and the weather intervened, takes on L'Impresse, who was a pretty like second to Spillane Tower at Cheltenham. At the same time, at 15 to 8 against 13 to 8, in not necessarily a match, but I do feel the veteran might be slightly underlooked here because you kind of know what you're going to get with him. Haiti Killer, he's up and coming. I'm still not sure he deserves to be. He's getting £2 off. I'm still not sure there should be that much between them. 15 to 8, which could be the top price around actually. 15 to 8 against Haiti Killer at 13 to 8. 33 is risk on the ground, 11's leave of absence.
Before L'Impresse ran in Cheltenham in the Cotswold Chase, I spoke about him. I was concerned that he'd had a kind of a hard race. He got outpaced a bit, ran on in his run in the 12th of December in Cheltenham. He, you might say he ran slightly better the last day, but he got a solo.
He did get a solo, yeah.
He got a solo, and I just never liked that. I mean, it's not a fair reflection on the race. Spillane's Tower beat him shade comfortably. I think it's fair to say that, Johnny. And he's running again 14 days later. He's a great horse. He's just so honest, so genuine. He just turns up day after day. But if Haiti Killor has any pretensions, and Haiti Killor was entered in the Irish Gold Cup, if any pretensions of getting to anywhere near that level, he's 159 now. He'd probably want about £11 on his rating to kind of be that. He's got to win this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be fully wound up for it. But he's a fair versatile horse in terms of ground. I mean, he won an Irish National soft to heavy. He won on what was pretty quick ground for a Welsh National the last day, which is kind of funny from when I think back to my youth and watching Welsh Nationals. I think they were kicking up stuff.
The Alamo,
it really was. So look, I think Haiti Killor has to win this if he's going to be any better than he was. You say he's up and coming. He's 9. I mean, he's not a spring. He's not a spring. He's not a spring chicken. He had a season and a half last year, and I think I can forgive him. I can forgive him the day he pulled up in Aintree. He's had 2 runs at Haydock. Sorry, he's had 2 runs at Haydock. One over hers, one over fences, and like. There were actually his 2 worst runs ever, and Haydock is a difficult track. So I think the favourite wins. I honestly do. I'd be disappointed, and connections of Haiti Killor would have to be very disappointed if a horse of L'Impresse at this stage is going to beat an up and coming horse like him.
Back at Listowel, so on the 23rd of September, Saratoga under WM Lorden, easy to back beats Kilmeaden, and the beauty of racing, they both turn up. Donncha O'Brien's still training Kilmeaden, which is an intriguing anomaly. They both turn up in Nace's rated hurdles. This is the 105 tomorrow, for which we have declarations. We don't have prices yet. It's safe to say this will be run on very testing ground. But again, I should say this, like the ground at Punchestown yesterday wasn't as bottomless as say even Leopardstown, or certainly not Goran. So you can get heavy, but it's different, if that makes sense. So I feel Nace will be testing without being absolutely bottomless, and that's important, particularly for the 4-year-olds, ex-flat horses in the main. Saratoga is just the place to start almost, even though he hasn't actually won. And the two of these have won. Genealogy, I tipped this horse up the last day actually and ran into Winston Jr., who bolted up. It looks like kind of an obvious Fred Winter candidate now. But Saratoga still has a bit of improvement on his jump, and obviously Mark Walsh winning on everything at the moment, but can he confirm form with Kilmeaden from the stole in a mile in 6th race, and will that be enough? And this was a race that has been informative in the past. Brazil won it in 2022.
Yeah, look, very interesting horse. I mean, the talk about Saratoga before, all through the last flat season actually, was that he was a serious horse. He'd only had one run as a 2-year-old. He ran in Killarney, promising effort. He was off for 400 days or more than that. Didn't quite fulfil it. His only win last season was in Listowel, that one you mentioned against Kilmeaden. But I mean, if you didn't write him down as an eye catcher the last day, or even the two days to date over hurdles, if you didn't put him down as an eye catcher and one to keep an eye on, I mean, where you're really watching the races at all, he has that potential. He's look at. Maybe he's just a real slow burner because he had the hold up there for the whatever many months he was off, 14 months or so. He's I like to run the last day enough, and this is a good race. He was 90 something rated. Kilmeaden, it was good to see him win for Donegal actually the last day. And
Highland Crystal is surely $1 million as a filly, given £7 to say the selection for one.
She's been very good Academy Hurdle, and the last day she's been very, very good. But yeah, she's also entered for Sunday actually. It would be interesting if she went to Sunday. The interesting thing, with Kilmeaden, after 3 or 4 runs, I had almost written off Kilmeaden. Said, "This, you want to oppose this at all costs." And
then call it the fillet of opposition. Yeah,
exactly.
Some of you won't have any idea what that reference is, but as a washed-up man in my mid-40s, anyway.
But I thought you could oppose Kilmeaden. I'd beaten it odds on in Tipperary. I think I was there that day. Was beaten down Royal, and then I said, I back Starford in Galway, and then Kilmeaden beat me a neck, and so.
Yeah, I love horses like that.
Yeah, don't you?
Love is not the word at all, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
11 to 1 at Punchestown, and did it well.
But that's the good thing about it. I mean, Donegal's done a great job, because it did look like a horse that was going to frustrate, and maybe a horse that had issues, maybe wind or something, he had some issues, and then they get him to win on the flat, get him to run well subsequently, which I didn't think he'd backed him up. He ran grand, and then to go and win a hurdle. So he's obviously a potential improver. Wouldn't it be interesting to see Donegal O'Brien with a horse at the Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be sweet enough in Saratoga there, definitely. Yeah. I feel getting the ways, and this is just, it looks like the right time in his development to give this a very good go. And for a stare on the flat, pretty much a stare with a bit of a turn of foot, Naas should suit. He's already had experience of a very similar track. I do like him.
Be very interesting to see what rating he might get if he wins this now, because it looks like the Fred Winter winners have come out of this race in the past. And
it's funny, it's the one race that of the new Cheltenham that I've loved, always have loved the Fred Winter. I just think it has a great place, and a 4-year-old plot job. Some of them coming from some of them Gaelic Warrior, who obviously Brazil beat. Then, as you mentioned, we've twice referenced that era of the 4-year-olds when Brazil beat Gaelic Warrior. So next up at Naas we have the Adare Manor Opportunity Handicap Hurdle, which is kind of quite helpful in a way. It would be my bet of the weekend in this race, and Tommy and I haven't done a countdown style conferring here, and it's, I'd imagine we're in the same boat, because this is I love races, I have to say, that are essentially, it's not so much even that you fancy a horse out of the way, it's process of elimination, and there are so few horses in this race that count, and usually one will do you, and he or she will emerge from the pack. This is the race at 250. Mudan just wins this as far as I'm concerned, because there's no pace in the race. Owen Finnegan rides for Kieran Murphy, doesn't claim. Owen has ridden enough winners, quite a tall lad on, so 11.6 will be fine for him, but he wouldn't be able to do an awful lot lower than that. This horse, he's very game. He loves heavy ground. He is a chaser, but he'll have no problem going back hurdling, in my view. And there's just I cannot see what beats him in the race, really. And there's no pace on.
Well, yeah, okay.
250 it is, and we're doing this without prices. I'd be anything bigger than 9-4. That 2 to 1, 9-4 would be all over. I
have it down to 2 that are most interesting. Mudan would be the one I would like most. I think he's rated, I talked about this before actually, Johnny. He's rated about is it £8 different. I think he's 122 over fences, and normally I talked about it in that range of £10 is what he should be. But I think Mudan has been held back. His rating over fences has been held back by his jumping. He has slowed into a few and given away lots of lengths, and he's not the most natural jumper, but God, he's as game as a pebble.
Exactly,
he really is. And I think going back, I think he's still he's not exposed. He's still capable of winning, certainly off 114 over hurdles. I think Kieran Murphy's an excellent trainer. He is. I think what I would say about him is, I spoke I was chatting on the parade ring at the Galway Festival last year, and I kind of said Ross O'Sullivan had been the fella who stepped into where Gavin Cromwell was for years. That bit below the very top lads, but aspiring to get up there.
Yeah.
And Gavin has graduated up there, and I think Ross O'Sullivan is a fella who's shown the appetite and the ability to step into that gap where Gavin left to try, the next fella who wants to make it up.
As well, yeah.
And I think Kieran Murphy is going in that direction, very much close to that direction too, where Ross O'Sullivan is. I think we'd obviously like to see them with better horses and graded horses and see where they can go with them. But if you can show consistency, or be a trainer who can provide consistency with horses that are at a lower level where they're generally inconsistent, then you're doing something very, very right. So I think he's an excellent trainer.
Agree. What's your danger?
Oh yeah, just look at Boher can improve for the run, had been off for forever. And Clunane, disappointing a bit the last couple of runs, has ability. But the one that was very interesting, will win races, maybe not this one, but very much. Horse that was 300 to 1 last time out. Number 8 there, he's gone that way for Philip Rothwell. Brian Barry, I had to look up Brian Barry. Brian Barry's brother Johnny Barry. He was on the pony circuit, has had a winner, won I think. Went to America for a short while. He's still a young enough lad. He's riding it. I didn't know much about him, as I say, but
300 to 1 at Gorn, and then had a prep for this at Naas the last
2 runs. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
When he was 300 to 1 in Gorn Park, he actually ran very well. I tell you what he does. Jumps very well, dropped out the back both times, jumped very well, settled very well, and made nice ground, and to look to me. Now, I think the handicapper, when that run in Gorham Park might have got away from him slightly, because the handicapper gave him 100, which I think is probably, they probably might have been hoping to get low 90s and hope for something that maybe go with it.
And it's held on to the 100 as well.
Held on to the 100. I think that's a good mark. I think it will win off that mark. If you watch it, it's definitely capable of winning races. He's gone that way. Philip Rothwell, 5 years ago, if you said to me Philip Rothwell will have a winner, I just would have laughed and said it's not happening. But the last few years have been a development back to where he was as a promising trainer. From he gave Davy Russell his first Cheltenham Festival winner. That's
very good fellas talked at the race. I think that's worth the savour as well.
He's an interesting horse.
The unexposed side in the race.
Yeah, and definitely one to keep in mind for the future.
Okay, thanks for that, Tommy. So 4 o'clock at Naas, last one at Naas, the Opera Hat Mayor's Chase. That Opera Hat pedigree pops up somewhere this weekend, actually, from what I recall here.
Probably, is it?
Exactly, for Lorna Fowler. You Have Me in Stitches, Bioluminescence and Dino Blue, all running in the green and gold here, and it's kind of a sign of where prize money's at in this country. Listed race, 14 grand, 14.7. Like, it's small money for a horse of this, but that's for another day. Dino Blue, obviously, it's very, very hard to see how she doesn't replicate her win. Last year's race, she beat Allegri de Vassi in an unbelievable race on really, it was tough going that day at Naas, but beat her by a neck. It was a phenomenal race to watch, actually. I don't know, she just wins, doesn't she?
They were split by the width of the track last year and whatever it was, and she battled back well. 2 miles is sharp enough for her now. That's the only concern, because the rest of it isn't. Bioluminescence kind of has to prove where she stands at the moment. You Have Me in Stitches as a potential improver, obviously career best in the Dawn run the last time. Drop and Trip is a little bit of concern for her too. I think Dino Blue obviously won the race last year, and I think I'm happier with Dino Blue over slightly further, but a class act, it's going to be long odds on.
Yeah. So I suppose that's the thing. What your price is, but I'd have no issue putting the two of them into some sort of a double over the weekend, and that concludes our Naas. Unless you had anything else at Naas, actually.
No, that's
okay. So we'll go on to Navan. Yeah. So we're recording this before declarations, but I think we've a fair idea, and I did get word from Colin Murphy in relation to one likely runner. Actually, that's the race we'll start with, the race that honours Apple's Jade at Navan on Sunday. Apple's Jade resides locally in Bective, and this is a card where we'll see what runs. But I thought Zanouche here in the 220. Apple's Jane, funnily enough, runs in the race. It's actually kind of getting her act together after a slow start given her pedigree. But Zanouche, I was at Navan when she won over course and distance 22 days ago. It was only a handicap. She was taking on the boys, and I just felt she was very good. Colin Murphy, just denied by your selection in the hurdle race at Leopardstown at the weekend. His horse are going well, but Zanouche here, I found her hard to oppose. Highland Crystal, as you mentioned, is double entered.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if Highland Crystal ran. It would be very, very interesting. Obviously, Zanouche, look, she's just
Old School Outlaw. We expect obviously not to run.
Obviously not to run. Yeah, Old School
spectacular.
Outlaw would win the length
she
of the
was
straight.
spectacular the other day. Go ahead anyway.
She really was. Yeah, Zanouche, I just thought she's really finding her stride as a hurdler. These, the 2 wins aren't a fluke. I mean, she had shown real potential in bumpers, had made a good start over hurdles, running well without winning, and then she just decided, when she won the day in Punchestown, she beat Phil Uri, who won yesterday, and then the last day, I think it says in the comments in running that she was outpaced at one stage. I'm not sure she was outpaced when she was let down originally, because they were quite wide apart as well. There were 3 or 4 of them in contention. But you'd love the way she travelled on the ground. You'd also love the way that when they had to get after her, that she picked up. So yeah. I mean, she's look at Willie has a horse in there. Poetisa finished second the last day. Might have finished fourth, but for 2 fallers at the second last hurdle, and the race was won by I'll Raise It Last, who's entered in this again. We don't know if it's going to run. Hard to assess that form, I think. I mean, it's going to have to improve a lot. I mean, it's a listed race, and you have Catch a Bird who's entered. Actually, I think Catch a Bird ran yesterday, so it's not going to run, I'd imagine. But 98 rated. I mean, you're tilting at windmills at 98 rated in a listed race.
Yeah, and with the way it could up, Black Type isn't a million to one.
No,
yeah.
Look, we talked about last week's Switcher. Easily thought maybe it might be running for things. She was a bit too prominent, wasn't she?
Maybe, or just not good enough. Yeah,
just not as much a hurdler as she was as a bumper horse.
Yeah,
we had the signs of that. Now she's a long time over or in bumpers.
Very much so. Yeah. So the Boyne hurdle at 250, then over 2.6. A lot of familiar faces here. Staffordshire Knott was second. I tipped him in Gorn and the Galmoy. Didn't do a great deal wrong. Taking on Honesty Policy, Colonel Mustard, Cashel Lad, Better Days Ahead. And when I say taking on, this is on paper now. These aren't all going to run. This is a race that's, let's be honest, is tricky enough to call with Gordon having so many runners in it. I do like Staffordshire Knott as a horse. I suspect he actually just might run. Jigginstown don't have anything else in the race. He went down fighting behind home by the lead. They hammered everything else, including a couple of good horses in behind in the Galmoy.
It'll only be 2.5 weeks.
Yeah,
and
that was a tough race.
The Galmoy is always a tough race,
and awfully bad, unraceable ground.
And it always, to me, that always leaves a mark. Staffordshire Knott would want to be made of steel to bounce back in 17 days and run. And maybe he is. Maybe he's that type of horse that can take racing well. I don't know, but look, to be honest about it, if Honesty Policy runs, it'll win. To me, there's no betting. Even giving away weight, it'll have to give £9 to Staffordshire Knott. I doubt they both turn up. Personally. I think Gordon is on record as saying that he wouldn't run on very testing ground in case of the mark that it might leave. So because obviously Cheltenham is a greater concern. But actually, the horse loves soft ground. So if you thought that if this was a plan, and it's not a plan, but if this was a plan, you say you could sell out an Honesty Policy. The run the last day in the long walk was excellent. To me, there'd be no betting if he's allowed to run.
The last race we look at, the 10 Up Novice Chase 350. Navan is a brilliant racetrack, by the way. I love going national hunt racing there, and like this sort of weather and all of that, it's just a place where it kind of feels good to be alive even in bad weather. And funny enough, Tommy, looking at Soldier Milan, he is the type of profile that I was talking about earlier, where he didn't even bother going hurdling, and he's going in here. I suspect this horse might run. He's gone into a grade 2 as a maiden. Now, he was sort of touched off in that incredible finish in like one of the maddest races over 2.5 miles, where half a length split the first 4 home. The Wall Park has been a mystery, I would say, over fence so far. Oscar's brother was bought by JP McManus, stays with Conor King, and has his big step up since beating Cocktail Divan the last day, if he runs. Again, we don't know what he'll run, but Boss of the Brownies, I should mention as well. He comprehensively reversed form of Flicker of Hope at Naas last time, actually developing into a very solid horse as well for Mouse Morris.
It very much is. I thought after the run behind Flicker of Hope, I thought I didn't really fancy it back in grade 3, even though I had run well behind Oscar's brother in a grade 2. Didn't fancy it the last day. Thought it ran a cracking race, but I think Oscar's brother's a horse I do like. I think the Kings have done a really good job with him. I think beating Cocktail Divan. I had Cocktail Divan down as maybe not the most resolute of finishers, but then he went to Leopardstown. Now, he won maybe an egg and spoon race, a beginner's chase at Leopardstown Christmas, but he won with his mouth open, and his jumping was a joy to watch that day. So maybe the form is better than I was given the credit for at the time, and I do like Oscar's brother. Now, he's 8 years of age and he's at this level. Gold Dancer's been around. All summer he's been everywhere. He won in Galway. He won in Galway, Tipperary. He finished place to Romeo Coolio second in the Drinmore. He finished second to final. The man below in Limerick. That race, I'm just concerned it might leave a bit of a mark. I'm not sure if he turn up. He's not really a heavy ground horse anyway, a real deep heavy ground, and depends on how testing it is. I like Oscar's brother as a horse, to be honest about it. I think
the market likes him. He's nearly always very strong in the betting for such a small operation.
Yeah, and actually, I remember a few years ago, was it? If I remember rightly, just I'm getting old, Johnny. Yeah, it was in November 2024. Wasn't that long ago? Winning that listed race below in Cork, actually. And even though he returned 5-1, he was very strongly fancied that day too. He's a popular horse. I think he's found his calling. His chasing is what it is. I think he's very good. I think 148. I mean, they're all kind of a similar. Well, most of the top ones in this are similar rating, kind of 150 for Gold Dancer. I think you'd fancy him to turn him over here anyway.
Yeah, very likeable horse. And the King's great story. The father, he just bought 2 horses basically, essentially for Conor to train, and the 2 of them have turned out to be very good. And one of them sold JP McManus. I think the other one is running today. Right, Boyles is best odds guaranteed across Irish and UK horse racing. And if you take an early price in a selection and the SP beats us, the starting price, Boyle Sports will pay out in the better price if the bet's placed after 8 a.m. on the day of the race. 18 plus. Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, UK, online only. It's time for our best wagers. Now, I actually put up a horse each way at 5-2 yesterday when I was working at the track. People might think that's odd. I've no issue with that. So if you back a horse at 5-2, even in a 10-horse race, you'll get 3/4 of your money back if the horse just places and loses. So with Mudan, if it's around about that sort of price, no problem backing each way, because he can't be out of the first 3 for me if he runs his race and has a bit of luck. So Mudan is in the, let me just get the time up here, and whilst I do that, Tommy, you can give your...
I tell you, a race in Newbury on Saturday, the 320, the William Hill hurdle.
Here we go with the Claxon here, because we can do the double here. So that my horse is running at Naas. I was going to say at 250, which gives you half an hour to possibly dream about the 320 at Newbury.
The 320 Newbury is a cracking race. Let It Rain is favoured around about, I don't know, is it 11-4 maybe?
Here we go. 16 runner handicap, right? So this is written in the stars for an each way double here. This is one of my favourite bets, an each way double.
Well, I'm not going to be tipping Let It Rain. It's favoured. This is a filly that Dan Skelton felt a few years ago could have been a champion bumper horse, and then she missed a year, and then she was back and showed form, and then she missed a year, and then she came back in December and she ran really well in defeat. I just wonder, like, the ground is going to be very testing, and when they've had a few issues, obviously she's been offered 2 very long absences. How resolute can they be in a finish, or will really testing ground find them out?
Tommy's really building this up, because we've a fifth of the odds 5 places.
Well, if she wins,
fair enough.
You just exactly. You take him to the chin. But the one I like is All In You, Warren Greatrix. There's a 6-year-old who's in good form. He was in do you know what I like about him, Johnny, is the style of racing as much as anything else. He won in good the last day.
Travelly thing, as they say.
Well, no, he was desperately unlucky in Ascot. In the same race that the favourite was actually third. Let It Rain was third, and Dancing Glance was the winner. Very unlucky. He loves to be dropped right out the back at the start. I mean, out the back, as far out the back as you can do.
This is one of the pleasures of actually loving horse racing, to see a jockey try to pull this off in a horse's sense as well. Like.
And maybe he's slightly keen through the middle of a race that he can make a bit of ground when you wouldn't want to. But he has a good finishing effort as well. He has form in France, 1.7 miles.
Bowen or Cobden if you
over heavy ground.
Bowen or Cobden if you have a bullet to the head. Who do you like best?
Oh.
Tough one.
Yeah, really tough. Different styles of jockey. One of them is more stylish. One of them seems it was more kind of the work.
James Bowen obviously suits this horse.
Well, nothing wrong with the rise. Even though he got beaten, it was a bit unlucky. The police say he kind of just missed out on a hurdle. And actually the last 2 probably, and it definitely cost him the race. Love to see that the fact, even though the ground was different, he reversed the form the next day. I think the fact that he's only been put up £5 for winning that is actually very lenient, because the others that finished behind him have maybe gone up £1 or maybe £2 or whatever. So it's not really much of a penalty. He'll be dropped out. There should be plenty of pace in it. I can see Tutti Quanti maybe going forward. He was impressive the last day in the Jerry Field, and Hot Fuss maybe might go forward. Mildan has a chance at a huge price, just because the ground will be very, very testing. But in this type of competitive race where you know that even though some of them might want to go a little bit slower, it's just because it's so competitive, there will be a pace on it, and I think it'll suit All In You. I think he's 6-1. I think it's a great price.
He's not 6-1, unfortunately. He's recorded this. He's 9-2 at Boyle Sports. But the double, we'll see what the price as the markets mature close to the off. But that's a double. So like if you're buzzing on a Saturday, and it's been a pretty bleak February or January, to be fair, it's been bleak February as well. But on the 7th of February at 3:20, you could be like, actually, life is good. Life is good. I'm on for a nice winner here.
Bring on the Cheltenham Festival.
Bring on the Cheltenham Festival. even if the horse places, actually, I'll nick a few quid here because I did that each way double that those two lads whose name I forget gave on the Irish Edge. Tommy, it's been great having you on again.
Yeah, it's great to be honest. Actually, you know what? This focus I'm after getting from giving up a full-time job to kind of go freelance. The focus I'm getting to have to do this is great, actually. I'm actually really enjoying it again. I'm kind of a bit of a, it's like you said about the Cheltenham Festival. I'm getting that about racing in general.
I completely see where you're coming from, and a break is as good as a rest, as they say at times. Never be afraid to switch jobs as well. Sometimes your hand is forced, but often life becomes just clocking in and clocking out every day and actually not thinking about it. You don't need to think about it because we've given you two absolute good things. Hopefully in each way double good thing, and we have 5 places. Mudan can't be out the 3 at Nace. #what can possibly go wrong. Thanks for our sponsors, Boyle Sports. That was week 3.